We're looking at the most disappointing NFL team of the season. Who has been the most disappointing team of 2018? Falcons, Giants, Jaguars, Packers, Raiders.
Man, the fact that the Packers are in the mix with teams that have 3-2 wins just says it all. And former Green Bay Packer, 10 years in the National Football League, he won a championship with them, two-time Pro Bowler, now with Fox Sports. Greg Jennings here on the show. How are you, Greg?
I'm doing great, Rich. I'm doing great.
What are you laughing about? Is that the Michigan thing too, Greg? You want to chime in here too?
No, I listened to all of that, and trust me, I promise you, I've had my share in that with you. I didn't go to Michigan, but I am a Michigander.
I know that.
And I'm talking. You talk about there's not too many games that will put a complete damper on your day that I've watched, and I'm a sports guy. But that Michigan-Ohio State game, for the last forever, has dampened one of my Saturdays forever. Like, it's unbelievable. I don't want to talk about it. I just had to share my sentiments with you. I feel your pain.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Greg. If you wouldn't mind, I think your phone's up against your chin or your cheek or whatever as we have a conversation with you here on the program. I appreciate the commiseration there. I really, really do. Let's move on to the Packers then, I guess. You had a great segment here in studio. You're kind of my Packers whisperer to turn to right now. I mean, when you watch a game like last night there in Minnesota, what is wrong? What is off? Is it something you can put your finger on here, Greg?
For me, it's a couple things. When I watched last night, their inability to be creative on offense, especially when you're playing a team that is athletic defensively on defense as the Minnesota Vikings, that can match you pretty much man for man across the board, and your inability to have what has always been your luxury, your cornerback being at a 100% and mobile and being able to make plays outside the pocket. He just has not been the same this year. I think when I watch the Packers, they have no creativity offensively. Which I don't think they have to do as much as they have. They ride Aaron Rodgers from the start to the finish, and they actually have a decent running game, which they should implement Aaron Jones in that offense, not just at runner, but at throwing him the ball, getting him in space. I think that should be one of their feature guys, which they don't really utilize him, in my opinion, to the best of their abilities, and just simply their inability to win on the road. This is a young team, despite having the Clay Matthews and the Aaron Rodgers and the Balagas and these guys. I remember when we were together in 2009, I believe it was, or 2008, one of those years, and we just could not win the close games. Our team was young. We had pieces, but we could not win the close games. And the Packers they're doing that. They are unable to win the close games, specifically on the road. Lack of creativity. It's defensively they play well in spots, but it's not sustained. It's just a lot going on in-house with the Green Bay Packers right now.
Greg Jennings right here on the Rich Eisen Show. So if knowing Aaron Rodgers as well as you do, if he could be his own offensive coordinator, essentially just run it in the same way maybe that Peyton Manning used to or Brady does, but even though obviously plays get called for them, if he could be his own offensive coordinator, how different would this offense look?
I think it would look substantially different. When you look at Aaron Rodgers, when we see him at his best, it is in the 2-minute hurry-up style offense. Doesn't even necessarily have to be hurry-up, just 2-minute no huddle. In those situations, he is in full control. He's in full control. He's calling the plays. He's signaling to his guys. He's running the ball. He's throwing the ball. He's he's actually playing the game the way he sees it and the way he feels like he can depict it. And he can surgically just maneuver and just cut through defenses that way at his optimal best. And that's what I feel like right now. They must go to that. Allow him to call his plays, no huddle, get his guys situated, see what the defense is doing, get them off cadence with his snap count, his cadence. Let them show what they're going to do and what they're going to as far as coverages, and then allow him to work. That's where he's been at his best throughout his career. But specifically now, because there's no creativity. If you're not going to be creative, okay, let's go with what we do, but let the guy who can get you in the best situation do it. And right now, that's Aaron Rodgers.
So what would you say to those who are somewhat critical of Rodgers' play though right now, that he doesn't take the easy throw, he doesn't check it down when it's necessary? How do you? What do you say?
With that.
Okay.
I agree with that 100%. But when you look at the situations that he's in, most of the time he feels as though he has to make that big throw or that big play, which is getting them in trouble, because right now there's been no game that they have just flat out been out of the last their road losing streak right now. And when you have an arm like Aaron Rodgers possesses, it is hard. It is almost impossible to not showcase that arm. Like you want to. You can't. You don't want to go take the check down and become that quarterback. But I feel like in order for them to be successful with Mike McCarthy calling plays, he has to do those types of things to sustain drives, not throw the ball out of bounds and throw it away. Just take the check down, move the chains 3-4 yards a pop, and go that way. But if he's unwilling to do that, which he has shown that he's not willing to do that, allow him to run the offense. That way we can see, okay, is it Mike or is it Aaron?
And if it is, last one for you on this subject, Greg. Greg Jennings here on the Rich Eisen Show. Do you agree that it is time for the Rodgers-McCarthy marriage to end?
Man, I've been one to say no, but the more I watch them, it's like the more it's like a growing frustration. Every time they're unable to come away with a big win, which is every week from here on out, they must win. And so when I look at that and I look at how they perform on offense, his numbers, although they are great when it comes to looking at them individually statistically, he's putting up great numbers, but he also is putting up some of the poorest numbers that he's ever put up. And I think that has to be accredited to, number one, his health, number two, the play call.
Well, I mean, and I'm just at least glad for you, Greg, and for Packers Nation, that at least you've got that ring, right? I mean, but that said, yeah, in the Rodgers-McCarthy era, just in terms of that dozen years, just having the conversation about what other GOAT quarterbacks have been in the league, Rodgers and McCarthy kind of lead the league in needing to run the table in order to save a season and make the playoffs and go on a run. I mean, Brady and Breeze, I'm just going through the Big Ben. Even maybe Phillip Rivers is the only other one right now that they've got to go on a run all the time. It just seems that they're always in the relax or chill out mode or whatever. And so my question for you is that if McCarthy does go, who do you think would be the right fit for Rodgers as he approaches his dotage years and his final window of opportunity to try and bring another one to Titletown?
You know, that's interesting. The issue with a guy like Aaron Rodgers is you have such a talent and a guy who really is stubborn. He wants to do it his way. He's kind of bullish, if you will, and so you have to have a coordinator, head coach guy that can challenge not only his intellect, but him on the football field. And there's not too many guys out there that can do that I feel like he will respect enough. Like, we were a few weeks ago talking about the comparison if they were to swap, like Belichick and Aaron would have that relationship and have been with one another, would it have been as great as Tom Brady? I'm not so sure. I believe that it would, or better, but you have to have a head coach that can come in, that has been proven that they can win, that's been proven that they have had success offensively, and can be smarter than your quarterback. I think that is a huge, because Aaron Rodgers, he feels like he's so smart that he can outthink. When you think about just managing the game, he shows frustration with the way Mike McCarthy manages the game, not just play calling, but just managing the game. He feels like he is smarter than Coach McCarthy, and maybe he is. I'm not sure. And he knows so much. You have to have a guy that can kind of bottle that and kind of caress that, but at the same time, squeeze everything out of them that you possibly can. And I don't think Mike McCarthy has been able to do that.
Ask Greg Jennings a poll question, Chris, before we send him off on that post-Thanksgiving Monday.
All right, Greg, who's been the most disappointing team of the season? Falcons, Giants, Jaguars, Packers, Raiders.
Oh, for me, it's the Atlanta Falcons. No, I'm sorry. I was going to say the Atlanta Falcons, but because of all their injuries, it is the Green Bay Packers, because the expectations that we have of them every single year is Super Bowl or bust. And this year, they may not even make the playoffs. Who would have ever said that coming into this year, that the Green Bay Packers aren't going to be in the playoffs?
I didn't hear anybody saying that. I thought that they'd win the division. But I also didn't see the Bears winning 8 of their first 11 too, Greg. I didn't see that coming.
Exactly. We even heard Super Bowl, the Packers will be in the Super Bowl. Where is it? Not saying that they can't make a run, because we've seen them do it. But to your point, they've had to do this every single year, and I think it's just too much to overcome this year.
Greg, appreciate the call. Always have a great day, and I know I called you on short notice. Really appreciate you answering the bell, and thanks for your sort of bro hug all the way from the middle of the great upper Midwest for the Michigan loss. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. Have a good one. Happy holiday season, too.
You too. Let's chat again soon. That's Greg Jennings. Man, I love chatting with him.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.